You are now locked in to Take a Knee Sports Podcast.
Imagine Saturday mornings at the barbershop. The conversations that are had probably would leave memories in your head for the rest of your life. Here on Take a Knee Sports Podcast, I have a candid, open barbershop style discussion. Just, discussing current and past events in the sports world of football, boxing, and basketball, sports that I love. Mostly facts. Some facts, I would say, a lot of opinion, but always keeping it real. On this week's episode of Take a Knee Sports Podcast, I'll talk about the NFL free agency frenzy that's going on right now. From some of your big name, big fish type guys to some of the smaller fish in the pond. We'll get to all of that and more on this week's episode. Yeah, is that time again? Every time I hear this beat, I swear to God, I'll be ready to just give you a quick 16. I just feel so good when I hear that beat. It just gets me ready to go. And we are ready to go. We're back with another episode of Take a Knee Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Phil. I appreciate you guys listening in. It's been a whirlwind of a week in the NFL with this free agency starting on Wednesday. We've had a lot of guys change teams, had a lot of people move to places that they weren't before. And we had a lot of things transpire just as I was sitting here about to begin recording this podcast, right? First off, I just want to say congratulations to Aaron Donald for such an amazing career. 10 years. He's definitely going to be first ballot Hall of Famer if he stays retired. But yes, I got the news as I'm about to start recording this that he's retiring, man. I say that is a tear of joy, man. I'm sad. But at the same time, I'm happy, but it's weird, man. I can't believe he's freaking retiring. And I believe it because, of course, it's been reported by ESPN. Also, I got a ticker from Rams.com or my Rams app that he's retiring. But I kind of don't even believe it until, I see the press conference and I see the tears in his eye and it's yeah, it's probably ready to go. I think after the Super Bowl win, that's what he really needed to, solidify himself as a Hall of Famer. And he had been battling that his whole career, trying to make sure that people knew that he was going to be a Hall of Famer, which we already knew. Probably by the numbers, he probably would have been a Hall of Famer anyway. But that Super Bowl win definitely solidified that as a first ballot for sure. I think he's been through a lot in these last 10 years, especially with us moving back to LA. It's been a crazy ride. So he came in when we were still shitty in St. Louis, and he was able to battle through that and get with us to LA. So shouts out to AD 99. You go down in the books for me. With that being said, we're gonna get to this free agency. This shit has been wild, man. It has been nothing but shocking to see. All of these different players going to all of these different places. It's been what is going on, man? You got people leaving from one team, going to the divisional rival. It's what the fuck is going on, man? I guess some of these guys got something to prove for sure. So let's start out with some of the bigger names. You know what I'm saying? Let's start out with Ciara's husband, Mr. Russell Wilson, right? Pittsburgh, boy, I don't know who in y'all financial department, who, y'all got working on that side, but y'all boy smart. That boy good. That boy smart. Y'all got to pay a quarterback. Nowadays quarterbacks are going for easily 37 to 40 plus million a year. Just on some, you can be Joe Schmo starting quarterback off the bench somewhere, and you can literally get 35 million to be a quarterback. That's crazy, but that's kind of the going rate, unfortunately. But Pittsburgh is only going to have to pay this man like 1.7 million or something like that out of his 38, 39 million that's going to be due this year. I don't know who was smart enough to figure out that, like, hey, you know what I'm saying, we don't even got to pay this man. He can come in, potentially be a starter. Oh, no. You know, we got a couple of quarterbacks now. Kenny Pickett, you know what I'm saying, that it may work out. We may even draft a quarterback. But, hey, we'll have Russell Wilson, Super Bowl champion, potentially two-time Super Bowl champion if he doesn't throw that pick. That's another story. But, hey, I'll take it, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got Russell Wilson as a potential backup, potential starter. You only got to pay him $1.7 million. Hey, I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I think that was a great deal for Pittsburgh. You know, Denver, I understand what you were doing business-wise. You got to get that off your books. You know, it's not working out for you with Russell. You got to get that money off your books somehow, some way. And unfortunately, this is the case that's going to happen because it's definitely going to be some dead money situation going on long term there. Because I think he had about like 2 or 3 years left on that contract. But hey, shouts out to Pittsburgh and their financial team and their GMs and stuff like that for figuring that out and understanding that they can get a pretty decent quality quarterback. That probably got a couple years left in them for a stupid cheap price. Next, I want to talk about, you got Derrick Henry going to the Baltimore Ravens, bruh. Like, I hope this is the piece that Baltimore needs in order to get over that hump in the AFC and finally, you know, contest against the Chiefs to potentially break up that dynasty. But I don't know. Is this really what they needed? You know what I'm saying? Hopefully they draft well this year. Ravens have been really good at doing so over the past, being able to draft well and, you know, coach up these players to be able to become Hall of Fame players and stuff like that. But we'll see. It's going to be a deadly combination to see if both of them can stay healthy, which is both Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. More so on Lamar Jackson because of all of the running and stuff like that he does. But I think that would take a lot of the pressure off of Lamar Jackson and allow him to be whatever he's going to be, because now you can't just key in on him. You got Mr. Henry, you know what I'm saying? Old Man River, like that. You got Mr. Henry there who, bruh, you can load up the box if you want to, but then you got Lamar Jackson who can just pull that thing out, pull it out and go ahead and run around the corner on you. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see how that works out. They definitely got some weapons now. You know, they got, shout out to Isaiah Likely, you know what I'm saying? Tight end from Coastal. He's still there. You know what I'm saying? You still got Andrews. You still got a couple of wide receivers over there, Zay Flowers and stuff like that. So, hey, it might be a deadly combination, bro, but health is going to be the biggest thing there. Next, you got Saquon going to the Eagles. I'm like, hey, this is what I was talking about earlier when I said somebody got something to prove. You feel me? Like, this is one of those things. I feel like Saquon gonna come back strong as ever because he looked like he healthy when he walked into the building. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people talking down. Like, I got a lot of people. I live in Jersey, so I got a lot of people who are Giants fans. You know what I'm saying? Family, friends that are Giants fans, and they like, oh, you know, fuck Saquon. You know what I mean? He going to the Eagles. He stay injured. Nigga stay injured because, bruh, you touching a rock 400 times a year. Like, if I'm your team and I'm doing everything for the team, of course I'm going to get hurt. You know what I'm saying? You ain't had no offensive line. Like, I'm running behind people. Like, come on, bro. Like, you can't expect me to do it all and then be healthy. Playing 17, 18 games a year. Like, it don't correlate. That don't go together right there. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. I was making a statement to a customer I had at work the other day. I was talking with him and I said, hey, you know, Saquon is very much like McCaffrey. You know what I'm saying? McCaffrey was in Carolina. Your man had over 350 plus touches. as a running back, right? That's a lot of touches, dog. Like, people don't realize that, but you in the NFL where it's some big boys out there and people hit hard. Everybody's fast. Everybody's strong. You know what I'm saying? And you touching the ball over 300 something times. That means you getting tackled over 300 plus times. Like, that's a lot. It's a lot of demand on a running back now because you gotta not only run the ball, right? You gotta also catch the ball out of the backfield. Then you gotta block. So if you are every down back, you gotta do all of that, and then that's just that's not even talking about the touches of the ball, right? And getting tackled. That's just like your job. Like, you got to catch the ball on stuff like that. On top of the 300 plus touches that you had, like, and your usage rate is over 60%, bruh, you're going to get hurt, dog. I don't care. Unless you're Adrian Peterson and you just a Terminator, like, you're going to get hurt. And somebody like Saquon, you know what I'm saying? You come off the ACL. That happens, unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? Because you had that high usage, so you juking and stuff like that. Hey, you got an ACL injury, which is nowadays it's kind of like a everyday type of surgery, you know what I'm saying? You come back. But when you come back, you got to make sure that you feel right. Like, as an athlete, you know your body. I know when I've had, say, for instance, high ankle sprains. That's why it takes so long to come back from those. Like, high ankle sprains, it seemed like it's something simple, but bro, a high ankle sprain can last you a whole season, dog. And you just be like, damn, I don't feel right. I can't cut right. It's the same thing with an ACL. Like, you get that ACL tear. Yeah, it's a simple surgery now. And you can be back in a few weeks, or excuse me, a few months. But it's like, bro, I gotta feel comfortable with this knee now. Like, I gotta adjust to how I can move and make sure, you know what I'm saying, that I'm sure of myself when I'm running the ball. So when I first seen Saquon come back from the ACL tear, I was like, that's what's going on. You can see it. Like, as he's running, you can see he's not really sure. He's like, okay, can I still cut how I used to? Can I, you know what I mean? Can I hit him with the, you know what I mean? Can I do that still or nah? But he wasn't really sure of himself. Then on top of that, like I said, you got an offensive line that ain't blocking for you, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing here? Then you got a quarterback. That's another story. Anyway, I think that Saquon is going to show the Giants what he really could do. Now he's in an offense where he not only has an offensive line, he has a quarterback. He also has some wide receivers out there. I could just take the pressure off him. He can just be him. He can just go out and just play ball. You feel me? Like, that's what most running backs want. And the same thing, like I said, it translated with McCaffrey. He left Carolina, went to San Francisco. Now he's in San Francisco in a really good position where it's not all on his shoulders. It's not all on his shoulders. Well, I can't say that word. It's not all on his shoulders. He can definitely just be him. He can go play ball, run the ball. He's going to get his touches. Yeah, you're still going to touch the ball 20 times a game. But like I said, now you have other people that can affect the game, and then you're just a part of that. You know what I'm saying? And you can still be the special back that you are and stay healthy and be able to, get that rotation. So I think that's a really good look for Philly. Giants, just like some other teams that I'm going to talk about here shortly, I don't know what y'all doing, man. Hopefully y'all can draft something this year. It's not a lot of running backs coming out, so we'll see what y'all do at that position, my friend. On to the next. We got Josh Jacobs going to Green Bay, and he replacing Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, I think, is probably one of the best backs in the league. Definitely slept on a lot, for sure, just like Austin Eckler. Definitely slept on, but he's one of the best backs in the league. So you get Josh Jacobs out there. I don't know what difference he's going to make. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Aaron Jones is a better back than Josh Jacobs. Now, don't get me wrong. Josh Jacobs in his right is definitely a good back for sure. But I think Aaron Jones is just a little more explosive. So Aaron Jones left. He got released. Went to the Minnesota. Once again, another person going to the division rival. Like, this man gonna have something to prove once again. Like, Aaron Jones, I feel like gonna go to Minnesota. He's gonna get a lot of touches. Shout out to Cam Akers up there, even though, we know what he is. I talked about that in a previous episode, but we know what he is up there. He's not really the back that he was once. So Aaron Jones going to definitely get his opportunity to get those touches, and he going to have to see, the Packers going to have to see about him 2 times a year, at least. You know what I'm saying? And if Aaron Jones, be the Aaron Jones that he normally is, the Packers might be in for a long one, you feel me, for some years to come for sure. Next, you got Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. Once again, Kirk Cousins is getting to the bag, yo. Like, I don't know what it is about Kirk Cousins that everybody love, but I'm just like, how is he getting these bags, bro? My man coming off an ACL injury. Like, how you just getting 180 mil, 4 years, 100 million guaranteed? His first contract with Minnesota was 80 million guaranteed. Like, guaranteed money. That means, bro, I don't even have to play a down for you, dog. I don't even have to play a down for you, bro. I am guaranteed at least 100 mil in this contract. Word is born. Like, I'm 100 mil guy. So even if you trade me away, just like in the case of Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh, y'all boys gonna have to pay that. Like, it's getting a wire transfer. As soon as I sign on this dotted line. Hey, Mr. Cousins, could you sign right here on this dotted line here, sir? Oh, sure. Let me sign here for this 4 to 5 year contract, 180 mil. Yeah, just go ahead and you got my wire transfer information. Yeah, just go ahead and slide that over to, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and slide that over to the wire. You know what I mean? Go ahead and slide it over to the account. You feel me? And we'll be good here. I actually don't even think I want to play this year. I think I'm gonna just sit it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. No. I still want to sign with you guys. I just don't want to play this year. That's the type of shit that he's on. Like, he don't have to play it down, and he's still guaranteed 100 mil. So, hey, shout out to Kirk Cousins, man. He has grown into something that I definitely, you know what I mean? I think he's a good quarterback. Is he elite? I don't know. I don't know if he's an elite quarterback, but hey, he's one of the top tier quarterbacks for sure. You know what I'm saying? He can definitely get your team to the playoffs, maybe past the first round. But like, is he a Super Bowl winning quarterback? I mean, he doesn't have one clearly, but is he that guy? You know what I'm saying? Hey, I guess, you take advantage of the market when the market is there for your position. And the quarterback position is always going to be a market for it. They're always going to probably be the most paid guys on the team for sure. Next to probably defensive ends and stuff like that and like tackles. But like, he's definitely taking advantage of that. You know what I'm saying? He left Washington at the time. They were the Redskins, left them and signed that Minnesota contract. And he hasn't looked back since then. He always wins for sure. You know what I'm saying? But getting you to a certain level, I don't know if he's that guy in the elite quarterback conversation. Staying on that quarterback conversation, you got your boy Baker Mayfield, man. Hey, shouts out to Baker Mayfield. Came to LA for a little bit, played for us for a few games, and then he went and got the bag. Went and got the bag from Tampa Bay. You know what I'm saying? I can't blame him for that. He proved himself that he can be a starting quarterback in his league last year by taking them boys to the playoffs. Didn't go too far, but hey, he showed that he still can be a starting quarterback. You know what I'm saying? People were doubting him when he left Cleveland on whether or not he was still that type of guy and could still be in the midst of being a starting quarterback. And hey, here we are back again. You know what I'm saying? Signing a deal that's going to keep him there for a few years, long term. You feel me? Why not? Why not? I mean, if I was him, I would definitely take a 3-year, $100 million contract that can potentially be $115 million. Like, for sure. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who wouldn't do that? Who wouldn't take that contract? You know what I'm saying? $100 million for 3 years. But that's like I said, that's right in that range for quarterbacks. That's $33 million a year. Can potentially be $36 million a year. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Baker Mayfield. And I think one of the biggest things that kept him there was them being able to re-sign your boy Mike Evans. You know what I'm saying? That was a big reason why I think he stayed, because they had that connection and stuff like that from last year. So another name that's out there, wide receiver wise, I should say, is Curtis Samuel. He signed with the Buffalo Bills. I think that's a pretty good, signing for Buffalo to be able to get another target out there outside of Stephon Diggs. Now, I don't know if Stephon Diggs is going to stay there too much longer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know he was a bit frustrated with how their offense and stuff like that was running last year, especially with some of the mistakes that Josh Allen was making. So once again, that's a good collaboration, I think it would be. But we'll see how that goes when the season unfolds. A lot of things can look good on paper, and it doesn't necessarily translate to the field. So wide receiver wise, you also got Calvin Ridley, big playmaker. You know what I'm saying? He decided to go a totally different route that I thought he was going to go into, and he decided not to stay in Jacksonville, but to go to Tennessee, baby. And he going to go up there with DeAndre Hopkins, who we already know is a stud. You know what I'm saying? He's a dog. And then he also got Traylon Burks out there. So that combination, those three right there, if they can all get on the same page, Tennessee looking like they got some problems out there at the wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gonna have who you gonna double team? You gonna double team Hopkins? I don't know. You gonna double team Calvin? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So you got to pick your poison type situation. And if Will Levis can be the quarterback that Tennessee thinks he is, then oh boy, like Tennessee might be all right. Hey, but I think they're also turning over a new leaf and going probably a little more pass heavy, being that they got rid of Derrick Henry. You know what I'm saying? They got rid of him, and they no longer have that coach, Mike Vrabel. So it clearly seems like Tennessee is trying to turn a leaf and go in a different direction with their offense, and we definitely got to see how it's going to come together. I think another cool signing wide receiver wise was Marquise Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs. That's a very interesting pickup, my friend. And I think it's kind of a sleeper a little bit too. People don't, I don't know if a lot of people are really like paying attention to that one, but Patrick Mahomes is going to be a big factor in that, right? He's the quarterback, and they've had speedsters like Brown in the past, i.e. McCole Hardman, you know what I'm saying, who caught the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. So I think bringing him in and not necessarily knowing if McCole Hardman is going to stay there, he can take that range and take some of the pressure off of Travis Kelce. And then you got the emerging Rashee Rice. So it's going to be very interesting how they use him, because he could be used. He's like a Swiss Army knife a little bit too. You know what I'm saying? You could take the top off. He's got really good hands. Even though he's a little bit undersized, like, he can win at the line of scrimmage. So I definitely will be paying attention to that. And I think even flipping it on the other side of the ball with the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that the re-signing of Chris Jones was also a big pickup for them for sure, because he's a really good anchor for their defensive line. And as you've seen last year when he came back after the little holdout he had, you can tell that he's definitely top tier when it comes to defensive linemen. And other top tier defensive linemen that were able to re-sign with their team and restructure their contract, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. I thought that one of the two of them were going to be leaving Los Angeles to not play for the Chargers anymore. But hey, the Chargers somehow was able to figure that out. They restructured both of their contracts, and both of them boys are back in L.A., man. I guess they really like being in L.A., or they like playing with each other or playing off each other. So I would assume that definitely was a factor in them making that choice to stay with them and restructure that. You got Christian Wilkins. He was able to sign a contract with the Las Vegas Raiders, leaving the Dolphins. I think that's going to be a big signing for the Raiders to be able to pair him with Max Crosby. You know what I'm saying? Max Crosby, once again, is one of those guys that he's like a J.J. Watt to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, J.J. Watt doesn't get a lot of like recognition when it comes to media and stuff like that. Like, people talk about him, of course. Like, they definitely talk about him, but it's not like a name like AD. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely gonna give you production, and he's just a workhorse. He's one of those guys that got a high motor and is just gonna play all day. You feel me? So them two teaming up together is gonna be crazy, right? It's gonna be a crazy mix because you're gonna have to do something with Christian Wilkins in the middle because he can cause issues. So you're gonna have to double team him, which is gonna leave those one-on-ones on the outside for Max. So, shout out to the Raiders for picking him up and being able to try to figure that out. I think that it's going to be interesting. This is going to be a very interesting season to come because of all of these different signings and all of these different players going to these different atmospheres. But their playing style. So if they can bring that to those teams and if they can stay healthy, because a lot of times, especially in the NFL, it comes down to health, man. It comes down to whether or not the teams can stay healthy. Like, they can look good on paper all they want to, but if you can't stay healthy, then it's all for naught. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like the Raiders, they may have found their quarterback. I think Gardner Minshew, who they signed as well, is a decent quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like Kirk Cousins to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he's elite, but I also don't think he's like bottom tier either. He's somewhere in that middle right there that he can win you some games, but if he were to try to play outside of himself, he can also lose you some games too. You know what I'm saying? So the Raiders are definitely making those moves, and we're going to see where it falls at. You feel me? Defensively, there's other players that are out there that got snatched up, like Eric Kendricks. He got snatched up by the Dallas Cowboys. Now, speaking of the Cowboys, this is one of the teams that I love football, man. And I got a lot of friends who are Dallas Cowboy fans. And, every year they just live in this fantasy land where they're like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? We the Dallas Cowboys. We going to make it to the playoffs. We going to win this chip. Bruh, you haven't won a chip in 30 years. You haven't won a chip in 30 years. But you have a good team. And it's not your team that's causing you guys not to win championships, right? You know who it is? It's Jerry Jones. Yeah, I said it. It's Jerry Jones, bruh. He's the reason why you guys are not winning the championship. He's a good businessman, but I don't think he's a good football man. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you may know the money part of it. You know what I'm saying? And maybe back in the day, that could potentially work for you to be able to put together a team with money. But nowadays, it's not necessarily always about the money, right? Like, a lot of people are doing the kind of Moneyball situation now where you can put together a team, right? You can play, you can pay your high profile type of players, you know what I'm saying? But just like the Rams did, right? We patched together a bunch of veterans and created a team that was cohesive enough in order to win the championship. And it seemed like we had a lot of high profile guys like Von Miller and stuff like that, but we didn't pay them a lot. You know what I'm saying? Because they were all coming together for a championship, right? They all had in mind one goal, which was to win a chip. And I feel like Jerry Jones puts himself in a position to where he's like, listen, I can throw money at the wall and just keep throwing money at the wall and be able to put together a team and build a team that I had in the 90s and it worked today in 2024. It's not going to work like that, bro. Like, yeah, you can still run the ball, but you got to have a quarterback now. You know what I'm saying? And no disrespect to Dak Prescott, but like, he not it. You feel me? Hey, that's just my personal opinion. Some people agree, some people disagree. He's not it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, like I said, I think Jerry is the problem. I think that if Jerry can step back and just be the owner, bro, you don't need to be the owner. He's the owner, general manager, scouting expert. Like, bro, you can't wear all these hats, my boy. This is the reason why there's different titles. If there weren't different titles for these different positions, then you could have one person. But there's different titles for a reason, you feel me? And I just think that if he was able to step back and allow people to be in those positions and allow them to do their job, then they can win something. But you know what I'm saying? They haven't really made too many moves, and a lot of people have been upset. A lot of Dallas Cowboy fans have been upset that they haven't made too many moves. They only really made like one move so far, and that's picking up Eric Kendricks, which I think is a really good pickup. It's a really smart pickup because he's a really good linebacker to replace, Leighton Vander Esch, because he's more than likely they're looking like he might retire after some of the neck injuries and stuff like that he's had. So it's going to be, I think that's a really good pickup for them to pair with Micah Parsons. But it's like, you're going to need more than that. You need a running back. You got like 3 or 4 running backs right now that nobody even knows of. Only person that people probably know about is Deuce Vaughn. And the only reason why they probably know his name is because, Deuce Vaughn's father is a part of the organization. And Deuce Vaughn was a really big name coming out of Kansas State. And he played a little bit last year, but he's really, really small, man. He's very much undersized. Not sure if he's necessarily your every down back. And you just let Tony Pollard go. You had an opportunity to potentially get Derrick Henry. I'm not sure if you would have been able to afford him, but you had a chance potentially to even call his agent and see about that, but you didn't. So, Cowboys fans, just be in for another one, man. You might be in for another one. Hey, you might even make it past what you made it. You made it to the playoffs last year. You might be able to do it again, but how much further can you go? Because you got teams in your division, i.e., Philadelphia Eagles, who are getting better. You know what I'm saying? Like the Eagles had an off year last year because they had like some coaching changes and stuff like that. They had some things going on, but they're not going anywhere, bruh. They're not going anywhere. So number one, you got to get out of your division. That's number one, Cowboys. And then number two, you got to get past the first round. Right? And if you're not winning your division, that means you're not a 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed. You're a wild card or you're like a 5th seed. You know what I'm saying? So what are you going to do, bro? You're not going to have home field advantage, so you're not going to have people come to Jerry's land and be scared to win. You're going to have to go out on the road and get to the Super Bowl. So, like, I don't know, man. I really don't know. Continuing to speak about defense, Brian Burns, I think that was a good pickup for the Giants. Even though the Giants need way more than that, I think that was a pretty good pickup to bolster your defensive line, which you're going to need for sure. Especially in the NFC East, where it just seemed like the rich keep getting richer. Like the Eagles, like we talked about earlier, made a couple of pickups already. Then they trade for a backup quarterback in Kenny Pickett from the Steelers. I'm like, why would they? But it's totally understandable. So now it kind of makes sense as to why the Steelers brought in Ciara's husband, Mr. Russell Wilson. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought they were just going to bring him in as some veteran leadership to potentially, coach these guys up. But it looks like Steelers like, hey, we might have our quarterback here, you know what I'm saying, for at least the next couple of years. But like I said, the Eagles, they get Kenny Pickett as a decent backup. He's still young. He only 2 years, 3 years into the league. You know what I'm saying? If something goes down with Jalen Hurts, they got a quarterback who can do it. You know what I'm saying? He can sling the rock around a little bit. And he also is young enough to be able to learn a different system. And he's staying right home in Pennsylvania. Like, he hasn't left the state of Pennsylvania yet. You know what I'm saying? He went to Pitt. Then he goes to Pittsburgh, hometown guy. And now he's going down the road to Philly, and he's going to be a backup quarterback for Jalen Hurts. You know what I'm saying? Like, what more can you ask for? And with that, the Eagles then pick up a couple of picks in the draft. They get the 4th round draft pick. So it's like I said, the rich keep getting richer, and for the Giants to pick up that defensive end is definitely going to be needed in the NFC East, with also the Cowboys Hopefully they can find a running back, but, defense is going to be needed to be able to stop either one of those guys. Then there's a couple other guys, that's big pickups as well. You got Tyron Smith that's leaving the Cowboys, going to the Jets. That's a big pickup for them, especially with Aaron Rodgers coming back. Now you got a tackle who, if healthy, is probably one of the best tackles in the league, protecting you. You know what I'm saying? So you got to protect your asset. Hopefully he can be that. And like I said, stay healthy. The Panthers in the NFC South went ahead and signed my boy Jordan Fuller from the Rams. Shouts out to Jordan Fuller. Hopefully he can provide for them what he provided for us, which is leadership and also a shore end back safety. And once again, health is always the big thing in the NFL for sure, especially with Jordan. He's had a couple of injuries, but when he is on the field, he's definitely a good player. And speaking of other former Rams, shout out to Van Jefferson as well. He just signed a deal with the Steelers. So Russell Wilson, you got you another target out there. You also have the other Pickett, who's still George Pickens, not Pickett, but Pickens. George Pickens, who's a stud, you know what I'm saying? So now you got Van Jefferson to team up with that. And hopefully Russell Wilson can give you some of the flashes of the old Russell Wilson and not necessarily the newer Russell Wilson that we've seen in the past couple of years. Shouts out once again to Van Jefferson. Hopefully you can do your thug thizzle. Another wide receiver that got picked up, Keenan Allen. This is another guy that's been in Los Angeles and San Diego putting in work with the Chargers, man. Like Keenan Allen, definitely top 5, top 10 receiver in the league for the past easily 5, 6, 7 years. You know what I'm saying? So shouts out to Keenan Allen. He was able to get that bag with the Bears. Hopefully he can, give them something that he was given in San Diego and LA for all of these years. You feel me? And also, Vikings in the NFC, they picked up Sam Darnold. That's a potential replacement for Kirk Cousins. But if not, they also acquired a second first-round pick this year, right? So they traded with the Texans to get their number 3 pick, and they got a 7th-round pick. And then the Texans get their 2nd and 6th-round pick, as well as another 2nd-round pick in 2025. So, the Vikings have positioned themselves to potentially move, right? If they want to take if they do want to take a quarterback in the first round, they can potentially do that, right? Because what they're saying is right now, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd picks are potentially looking to take a quarterback. And the 4th pick, which is the Cardinals, may not want to take a quarterback. Of course, they have Kyler Murray, so they're probably not even looking for a quarterback. So what they can potentially do is package those 2 first-round picks that they have to move up to get a quarterback if there's a quarterback there that they like. So the Vikings, they're making a couple of moves, man. That's why I said this free agency has been a frenzy, bro. It's just been wild west out here. People are going to teams that were in-division rivals. They're signing big contracts with big money. Players are getting released that you never would have thought that are getting released, and players are retiring. You know what I'm saying? That I never would have thought would have retired at least this early, especially, once again, shout out to AD, Aaron Donald. But I would have never thought that after 10 years he would be hanging it up. They were talking about it after the Super Bowl. He came back. I was glad to see that. But I thought that, he would have gave it at least one more year. We weren't shitty this year. We were 10-7. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like we had some young studs there that you could potentially grow something with, right? So at least give it one more ride. Try to see if you can win a championship or win something big. But I guess he had other plans. Just like most teams have plans. Like the Cowboys released Michael Gallup. I think he's a pretty good wide receiver. Of course, he has some injuries, so he's been a bit shaky. You know what I mean? They thought he was going to be that number 2 guy right behind CeeDee Lamb, but it looks like he hasn't been that guy. And therefore, Cowboys once again let go of somebody else, and now they're going to have to find a replacement, bro. I don't know who's going to step up and be that person. They also have Turpin. He's also a little guy just like Deuce Vaughn. So going back to what I was saying earlier about the Cowboys, they have potential. They have some of the pieces there, but the whole puzzle is not put together. And I'm not sure if they're not going to make any moves in free agency, if the draft is going to be what they need to be able to put that whole puzzle together. You know what I'm saying? Especially NFC East foes getting stronger, and the total NFC in general, they're getting better. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's getting better. The Panthers signed Jordan Fuller, a safety from the Rams. I think he's going to be a good fit for them, as I said earlier. So it's so many teams that are using free agency correctly, right? And picking up some of these really good players to fit their schemes. And if healthy, a lot of these NFC teams are going to be really, really competitive this year, man. And everybody's gearing up to try to beat who? Current champions, which is the Kansas City Chiefs, man. So shout out to all the teams that are trying to acquire players and become better this year, because it's going to be a dogfight, man. If everybody stays healthy, you never know who's going to come out on top this year. So to round out this episode, I definitely want to touch on a couple of the picks that the Rams have touched this year so far in free agency. We inked a deal with Jimmy G. You feel me? Jimmy G. You know what I mean? He's going to back up Matthew Stafford, and I think that's a really good fit. You know what I mean? He used to play for San Fran. I think he comes in, gives us a little inside source type of situation, even though he was with Las Vegas last year. But he gives us an inside source to San Fran, and maybe we could try to figure them out. Like they've had our number. We beat them last year in the last game of the season with our backup at the time, who was Carson Wentz, which we're still on the fence and haven't made a decision whether or not we'd be able to re-sign him. But I don't think we're going to re-sign him, especially with the signing of Jimmy G. I don't think we're going to re-sign him. One of the reasons being is because I think he still thinks he can be a starter in the NFL. So we'll see how that works out. The Rams also re-signed Kevin Dotson. Great offensive lineman for us last year. Played a lot of snaps and helped us definitely establish our running game. And on top of that, to continue to establish our running game, we went ahead and signed another free agent, a big-time free agent named Jonah Jackson from the Detroit Lions. So we played against him in the playoffs, and then he ends up signing with us. That's another offensive guard. He can also play tackle as well. That's going to shore up our offensive line. And from what he said in his interview, once he got signed over to us, his interview, he said that it was a lot of schematic, likenesses that's going to translate right over from how he played in Detroit over to the Rams offense. So it's really going to be good to have him there to shore up the offensive line and get that running game going, and also to protect the Stafford, you know what I'm saying? Matthew Stafford, you feel me? Protect that arm. And he also has that connection with Matthew Stafford because he was there with Matthew for at least a year, which was his rookie season in 2020 before Matthew came over. So I think that's going to be a really good sign for the Rams. Once again, shoring up that offensive line. Also, we picked up Kobe Parkinson, who was a tight end from Seattle. I think that may be a really good fit for us. He's a really tall target at 6'7", and we definitely need some security at the tight end position, being the fact that Higbee got hurt in the playoff game last year, so he's going to be out for a while. We had Bryson Hopkins, but I believe he's a free agent. So there's really no spots right now at the tight end position, or any players that we have right now at the tight end position. So I think that was a really good pickup. And then we brought back D. Will, who played last year and the year before that with the Jaguars, went and got that check with the Jaguars, and now he's back. So he already is familiar with a lot of schemes. Hopefully, Chris Shula, being the new defensive coordinator, is able to, bring some familiar schemes that our players are already used to, or bring a defense that's very similar to what Raheem ran, and maybe make some additions to that defense. So bringing him back, like I said, will continue to try to shore up that back end or our cornerback position for sure, because I think he's a really good player. He may not have fit well in the scheme in Jacksonville, but for us, he made a lot of plays, especially being the guy that they went after when we had Jalen Ramsey. So when we had Jalen Ramsey, people were not throwing to Jalen Ramsey's side, so they were throwing to Darius Williams' side, and he made a lot of plays for us while he was with us. So hopefully, with that re-signing, he can be what he was a couple years ago And that would definitely, bring some veteran leadership and, bring some type of clarity to that cornerback room who definitely need. And once again, so as this free agency frenzy continues, we will see what other teams continue to do before the draft and leading up to the draft, as well as going through the draft. What's going to continue to happen, man? I can't wait to continue to watch out for what's going to happen. Let me know how you feel about your team right now. Hit me up on all the social medias. You know what I'm saying? You talk, I talk back. Follow me on Instagram, Takeakneesportspodcast. Same name, Takeakneesportspodcast on Twitter, a.k.a. X. That's your boy Phil. This is another episode of Taking These Sports Podcast. And so that's all I have for this week's episode of Taking These Sports Podcast. As I stated in the beginning of the podcast, I want to hear from the fans. I want to hear your feedback so I can get better. This is my first time ever recording a podcast, and I'm trying to get back into the groove, and I want to be the best podcast there is for my listeners. So all I want to do is hear that feedback. So what you can do for me is write in the comments. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter. My email address is takspodcast@gmail.com. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Takeakneesportspodcast, as well as the same name on Twitter.